Okay, you are live.
All right, we will call the budget meeting number 3 for the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors to order. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate the hard work of everybody that's gone into the budget up to this point. And at this point, we'll turn it over to Mr. Suter for his updates.
Okay. Well, thank you all. This is the board's third look at the overall budget for FY24. Last Monday, March 13th, we presented a budget with a draft budget with a gap of $1,937,470. And between anticipated revenues and expenditures. And as the Finance Committee, Supervisors Lewis and Lyons met with Mr. Harrison and I again, and we're able to close that gap down to $659,677 at the point that you see in front of you. Some of the highlights are, and one of the biggest gap closures there was equalizing the trying to equalize the personal property tax from the reduced from last year 380 per hundred to back up to 425, not all the way obviously back up to the original 450, and reduce the personal property tax relief from 36 to 35%, just 1%. So the total revenue at 435 or 425 dollars is $7,802,234, and from the commissioner's calculations, most people will still pay a lower tax on their vehicles, even with that increased rate due to the drop in used car valuations that you heard in last meeting. Slight increase on the meals tax of $11,000. At the board's request, we did go back and look at revenues on interest, and the Finance Committee suggested increasing that to $300,000 based on estimates that we were looking into the future. And a transfer from general fund reserves to capital funds. Amounts to transfer to the capital funds is based on the provisional CIP. Fund 272 capital construction, that's $606,000. Fund 276 capital purchases, $690,000. We also do now show the salary increase at 5% across the board for constitutional officers and compensation board employees and county staff. The jail request is down slightly from the previous draft at $23,000 lower. Sorry. The jail commission has a specially called meeting tomorrow to discuss further reductions. So we're going to be meeting tomorrow with the jail commission, and I'm going to update the board on the results of that at our next budget meeting. The recommendations from the Fire and Rescue Committee were also incorporated into this update, resulting in about $351,000 total coming from the EMS Cost Recovery Fund. And just to recap on that, traditionally to this point, $10,000 has come out for the operational medical director. Our third-party billing was $27,000 on average that comes out of that. Volunteer pay per call is $100,000. And also there's $100,000 that comes out for paid staffing. And added to that is now $83,000 in direct payment to transport agencies, according to the plan that was recommended by the Fire and Rescue Committee. And again, that's an estimate, that's a budget estimate based on this year's numbers if we applied those to next year. And that would be where the volunteers have, or whoever has the crew and whoever has the ambulance, that each one of those would get 25%. If say one volunteer agency had the crew and the ambulance at night, they would get 50% of the revenue from that call. The other 50% would go into cost recovery in that fund. Um, 25% increase in the variable pay for the fire departments. That's about $40,000 added there coming out of that fund. And year one of the training lieutenant that's in the budget, total cost with salary and benefits, everything all in is about $93,000. The Finance Committee is continuing to review information regarding Rockbridge Area Transportation System and VAS, the new stretcher transport group that has formed and requested money, and also Valley ASAP, which they're trying to ascertain if other localities are going to be funding the same increase for ASAP. Also, we received a capital request. This is just kind of an update of for $20,000 of one-time funding from Rockbridge Area Relief Association on Friday. They're seeking funding assistance from multiple groups that also include the city of Lexington and the county. That they're also asking for funding $20,000 from the city to upgrade their facility. And the Finance Committee hasn't formed a recommendation on that yet. Wanted to kind of get to the budget closed down and wrapped up first. And finally, the Finance Committee recommended a 5% instead of a 7% increase to the school division. This resulted in about $152,000 impact towards the gap closure. That's a summary. At this point, I'll pass it on to Supervisors Lyons and Lewis, and also Mr. Harrison for any comments that they'd like to share.
I don't have any great comments. I just had a couple questions. Dan, would you like to go first?
Oh, go ahead.
Actually, the camera, security camera, was that 18?
Yes, yes, that was $20,000.
20? Okay.
The cameras currently in the courthouse are working, and they occasionally go out, and we draw from other funds to repair those. So
I'm
the
sorry, I
finance
just
committee-
remembered the number is 18. I was just checking. You're saying it's 20, but not moving.
So we did take that out. Thank you.
Sure.
I will note too, Chairman McDaniel caught what will happen from time to time of a spreadsheet snafu. We had to calculate it across instead of down, and no impact to the budget or the gap or anything. But in the two capital funds that you saw listed, they were totaling up all the way across the years, so that there was a lot of money in there. They've since been corrected
You have the corrected version,
and properly shown.
and thank you for catching that. I think there was a comment, I think about being a little too conservative on revenue. But you take for our sales tax, for example, we got the estimates from the state, what the state expects to give us, and we're about 60,000. Our estimate's about 60,000 more than them. So if there's questions about us being too conservative, I don't see that.
No, I think we're getting close. 600,000 seems like a lot, but we still got some work to do, and I feel pretty good about it. And I think maybe as early as this time next week we'll be a lot closer. So, but we understand when property taxes are staying the same, and we're gonna make the recommendations, and we'll have it down to where it needs to be for you.
As always, I just want to thank the Fire and Rescue Committee for their work. And while making changes that support the volunteers, it was budget neutral. You know, that those revenues that come from transport are for everyone. And I think that's good, working with the association, making that happen. That's good stuff.
I had a couple questions, just to make sure I'm correct. Last year, the personal property tax went up, value of vehicles went up, estimated 13%, right?
I can't remember the exact number. That seems almost a little low even.
I think it was, well, from my recollection, 13, but
I think that's what we ended up budgeting. There were the information that said it was going to be much more. Yes, sir. So we conservatively did that.
but then this year they're down 20%. Now, is it down 20% from the 13%? increase, so you're down roughly 7% from what it was 2 years ago?
It's down, well, I understood it's down it's down from what last year's value was.
Okay.
So,
So roughly it's about 7% less than what it was 2 years ago.
correct.
Okay.
And he even cited some examples.
Okay.
So, surprisingly, trucks are down. I guess at least if we did a truck and a big side SUV and everything.
Have, with the fire and rescue, the new, payment recommendation, where, as Mr. Suter stated, like it's a nighttime call and it's a volunteer agency using their ambulance, they would get 50% of the recovery fund for that call, right?
That's correct.
But what happens if that agency has one member and a member from another department on that truck?
You mean like a fire department?
Yes.
So, and this goes back to the presentation that, or an example of that would be the presentation that Glasgow Rescue and Glasgow Fire Department gave you all, I believe, in late November, early December. They're going to work, they would work that out themselves. So their solution that they brought to you all, and the fire department came in with them and said they would work that out. My understanding is that if the fire department provides in that particular case, if the fire department provides a driver, then they would bill or work something out between the rescue squad so that they're reimbursed there. And the county's not having to track that because it could be different in different places.
And that's fine. I think we need to send, if that's the route that we're going, we need to send a formal letter to the association instructing them on how they need to work together to define that's not going to be a county. We're not going to track that, so that they can work it out themselves, but we need to be crystal clear. They need to work it out themselves.
Are we talking about the variable pay?
No, sir. We're talking about the new incentive, or the not incentive, the
The
new.
25, 25 or 50?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. We're talking about that. And what Chairman Danny was asking is if half the crew, so you got 25% crew, 25% unit, if half the crew is made up of a fire department member and the EMS member, then does 12.5% go to the fire department? Is that what you're, and
That
12,
only pertains to EMS.
correct. But what he's saying is sometimes, for example, I was using the Glasgow.
Yeah, but no, that's EMS. So, well, that would be between Glasgow Rescue Squad and Glasgow Fire Department.
Right, I think Ms.
Right.
McDaniel's saying we need to make sure they know, everyone knows that if they do that, it's on
is up to
them
them.
to figure out what they want to do.
My memory is when they came before us,
What, did we get that agreement?
my understanding is when they came before us, they said that they would be working this out between the two agencies. They were very pointed at keeping us out of that agreement.
Yeah.
They wanted us to have no part of that Glasgow. And we asked them then to communicate with us what they were going to be doing, and certainly with the other agency. And they said they would do that. So I think it's correct that we should reinforce exactly what you're saying, that this is what we're doing now. You all need to work that out and understand that we won't be divvying this up between you. You'll have to deal with it. So we will take that to our committee and make sure that's done.
The salaries. I understand the COM board is looking at 5%. Have we looked at what it would be at like 4% or 3%?
For county employees?
Yeah.
We've looked at it, and I think right now, we don't need to go there. But that's not to say that as things come in, we could get there. That's not totally off the table, but right now we'd like to leave the 5%.
I think it's important for not only for us to, our employees, there's always the pressure of their insurance going up and paying more for less service. And I think we have to realize that not only was inflation 9% last year, but I would like to do whatever we can to preserve the 5%. Obviously, if we need to do something else, we will, because that's our job. But certainly 5% is what I feel very strongly I'd like to keep for our employees if we can.
No, I mean, I agree, but you know, you're looking at $600,000-$700,000 gap. I mean, you got to.
Oh, well, absolutely.
You know, one of the things that and concerns me a little bit. I mean, I think as a board as a whole, I think we've done an outstanding job. You know, the last 4 years of not raising taxes. You know, we've worked within our established revenues to do what we can do. But when you look at our budget, just like looking this year, I mean, revenues are up 7.38%, which should be great, but expenditures are up 8.62%. And if you go back from 22 to 24, it's up 17%. I mean, we can't continue to track at 8.5% a year expenditure increase. Somehow or another, we've got to rein in.
I understand that, but we're also looking at a year where let's look at energy. I don't know about you, but where I work, energy costs are up 50-60%. We can't expect our employees to bear that cost of doing business in Rockbridge County. We can't expect that to be on our citizens are also our employees. So I don't, you know, this is a very peculiar year. Let's hope it's peculiar. Let's hope it doesn't keep going up 7, 8, 9% inflation, but that hits our budget. And I don't think it's the employees' fault. So we have to be more and more creative.
I agree. That's, you know, but you got to look at expenditures. You got to be creative with that. That's my point. Same with yours.
Well, to your point, that what people would do when your expenses go up 7.5% where you can't do it, then typically you do everything you can, and then we do have to at some point come up with other strategies that isn't necessarily cutting our employees to the bone. That to me is, I just feel like 5% is all we should be asking our employees this year, given what the pressure on their pocketbooks and their insurance, that they can't be losing.
I'm not talking just about salaries. I'm talking about the entire budget.
Yeah. I get that. And I'm hopeful finance is doing a great job and coming up with those creative solutions. And
we are looking at everything to points of the conversation. Now, the one example I would put forward is the health insurance. You know, I think that's something we've done to be creative, as Mr. McDaniel said, this board. So we're trying to get ourselves in a position there where we don't have to accept a standard increase every year, and we can help the employees with premiums. So to me, that's an example of what we are trying to do to answer both of those concerns. So we are working on that. That's not finance. That personnel, I think that's the right committee. Yeah, the name's changed.
The one other thing, and again, I'm just pointing out, I'm not saying if there was a perfect answer, I think we would have already, you know, looked at it. But when you look at fire and rescue from 2015 to 2023, it's up $530,000, roughly 42%. Now I know we added a 24-hour shift, you know, and we've added, you know, some career staff in that point in time, but you know, the whole reason for adding career staff is that the calls aren't getting answered by the volunteers. So we haven't adjusted the allotments for the volunteers, you know, so I'm just saying, at some point, you got to look at that kind of stuff to
And we
see
are.
if,
Keep in mind, we are definitely doing that. So point taken.
that's my only concern is the rate at which expenditures have been climbing. I just think we need to keep our eye on that.
I would
That,
just-
that will continue to climb, and there's not much we can do about that at the moment. Look what happened to salaries just in fire and rescue. Went up much more than 5% last year. So what we need to do to be able to hire somebody, we're going to be seeing increases in that. And then making sure these calls, it is one of the reasons people pay their taxes. They expect people to come. So that is one area that, yes, we need to take a good hard look at the allotments, but also it is where people expect to spend money for us to spend money.
Well, nothing has been taken off the table. Nothing's being held vacant. So,
And I'm not saying that you should penalize all the departments either. I think you should
no, I think you
reward the
should.
good
You need
behavior.
to.
Mhm.
I mean, you know,
So that you can.
for the company or the departments who answer all their calls, they may deserve more than what we're giving.
Well, I think you see that in the direction we're taking, and that we're rewarding them for using their vehicle and having their volunteers make the call. So I agree with you. We're moving in that direction.
Well, I think all departments, not just fire and rescue, all departments, you know, the sheriff, the jail commission, the school, every, county agency, we're looking at real, I mean, we're, particularly lab, we've even looked at some tiny expenditures that increased to like $70 a month. They really need that, so.
I would add too that the board and the Public Safety Committee have done a good job at creating incentive. When you got and again, incentive, I say incentive, pay per call, that's just, honestly, that's just paying for their gas to get back and forth. And, but it is incentive, but as far as departmentally, the incentive, the variable pay for the fire departments, that's based on a scale that how many calls they go to in a year. The ones that don't respond to as many calls don't have as many expenses on the operational side. They still got to keep the roof over the head. They still got the same costs for insurance, for all the vehicles and everything, but they might not be spending as much in expendables to run those. And the other one is the pay for performance. You give them an amount of money at the beginning of the year, and they're going to get that money unless they miss a lot of their calls. So, and some of them get almost all their money every year. So it's incentivized when you did go up in expenditure.
The other difficult thing is the state not having done their job. They had created a budget in the timeline they should have. We might not be any better off than we are, but at least we'd have some concrete facts to go by when we're making a decision.
Just something I want to add. It's from my position, it's been great to see the finance committee. We talked last time, and I think we'll talk a little bit more at the next couple meetings to put the final touches on applying surpluses to capital as restricted for capital outlay, and to see a local government actually have a affirmative to capital is reassuring to see that. So that's not being neglected.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, it is.
It's
Good to see.
Did the staff collection center at Murat, am I reading that right? That in 2023, we budgeted 413, and we budget 533 in 24.
I can speak to that. I think that's one of those I need to. Oh, sorry. I think that can be taken out because if it's already been appropriated this year, and I was
It's gonna roll forward.
it would, I think we could take that out of the FY '24 and roll over since it's already been committed. Once the board takes action and actually commits funds to something and it doesn't finish up in that year.
But the way it looks on this document is that you're transferring an additional 606,000, and the biggest portion of that is the 533. I don't think that's accurate. If the money's already there to be rolled over, I don't think you have to pull from reserves again. Is my question.
Well, if it's not spent, then it would roll over and that would be the source of funding. From an auditing perspective, it's the year you're making the expenditure. I mean, I see what you're saying.
But
I will look
wouldn't it
at that
be a
closely.
credit. Where's the credit then?
That doesn't happen until after we determine whether or not we're going to spend it.
It won't show in
That
the
year.
total expenditures.
Right.
At the end of the year.
No, no, I think Chairman McDaniel may be correct. I think we could probably take that off
Duly noted
FY
in
'24.
the record.
Can
Duly
can
noted.
you repeat that, please?
It's going to be a wash. You're going to see an equal wash between on the expense side and a reduction in the revenue in the exact same amount. I was a little bit uncertain when I put that together. Since it's already been appropriated and committed to a specific project, then that enables me next year to carry that forward. And I'll double check that. But yes, so a revised budget would see a reduction on both sides, revenue and expenses, 100%. And I will double check that. I understand what Mr. McDaniel is saying, so I'll look closer to that.
Any other board discussion?
That pertains to this year's budget, but are we required to provide health insurance? Our employees?
If we want employees, we are.
Well,
Don't you have to once you have a certain number of employees? Maybe
that is true. What I'm wondering is rather than provide the insurance, if you provided a dollar amount to the employee to go out and get their own insurance.
I think you can do that when you have a certain number of employees. And it would probably cost you more because then you'd have to give
You have a
every
pool.
employee.
You wouldn't have a pool.
There are many, I'm sure there are people, or employees that have insurance through their spouse or a different family member. So not every one of our employees uses the insurance, I suppose. But it would be cleaner. I see what you mean.
You have employees come and complain about the insurance that we have for them. So my thoughts are, if we gave them the money, then you go get your own insurance. If you have problems or issues, that's on you. However, I feel that some people would probably take the money and not even provide themselves any insurance.
I think doing something new always, there's an informational gap and I do believe that our new Cigna is working with human resources to really bring in good information and to reach out to the employer to best use the insurance that they have. I don't think it's a question that they don't have good insurance. I think sometimes it's a question of how it's best accessed. And that's where human resources can really help. And so I think that's what we're working.
And, you know, you're right, it's knowledge. A lot of people say, okay, I got health insurance, I shouldn't have to pay for anything. Well, it doesn't work that way anymore. I mean, years ago it did, but not anymore. So they've got to become educated consumers so that they can, I mean, Cigna is very good about, you can pick up the phone and call and get a real person on the call and say, look, if I want to get this, I need to get this, and this done. And they say, okay, well, we'll cover this, and this. Or if you're doing that, this is what it's going, you're going to have to come out of your pocket. And then you can shop around too as a consumer. Well, sometimes you can go to Roanoke for a procedure and save several $100s and not use your insurance. So I think, but people just aren't used to that yet. They're used to the fact that I got insurance. We still got the people who have been around a long time that this high deductible is like, oh, I can't go to that because I can't afford that. And you look back over the last 20 years and they've never met their deductible on the high premium plan. But they, so it'll take a combination too.
I will, one good piece of news is they went ahead and consummated the deal with Privia Health. That was going to be a big one when Cigna and Privia Health seemed to be getting a divorce, and that impacted a lot of local providers, but they have come to agreement and Privia is remaining in their group. So.
And I believe that Cigna covers everything at the health center, correct?
They don't cover everything. but
Well,
they're-
not
they're-
cover everything, but no, but they accept
Yeah,
Cigna.
so-
Yes.
Because it's relative, because it's a lot better insurance than my former employers. So I guess it's relative because I thought Cigna has been better or in a plan that county offers versus previous plans I've been on.
Mhm. Good.
Anything else? Any other comments? Anything finance committee needs or wants from the rest of the board?
$700,000.
I would
Love
encourage-
offers are accepted.
I would say the one comment I have every year, I encourage all board members to share any of your ideas with the finance committee and, one-on-one and that helps when going into a meeting with the finance committee, if there's some ideas that are coming from their peers. And I think we're planning on meeting a little later this week. And of course, the next meeting is scheduled for the school division this Thursday at 5 o'clock, March 23rd. And Mr. Chairman, can I ask about the schedule?
Sure.
Okay. It is slated to be at school division offices in Effinger. I have heard at least a couple board members were going to pinch their schedule a little bit. And I did talk with Dr. Thompson, and there is the possibility of a meeting at the library at Maury River Middle School. We've never had a joint board meeting in the library. It's typically set up in the gym, but the gym is in use for activities, which is why pushed out to Effinger. I just need to let him know as soon as possible if there was going to be a move in venue.
But I mean, I think it works better if it's in town for everybody, you know, whether it's Maury River, Rockbridge County High School, Central Elementary, you know, I don't think it matters to us. If it's in town, it's just a little easier for everybody to attend. If it doesn't work out, they got programs going on. I understand this room's not available, so if we need to meet at Effinger, then that's just where we need to meet.
If we could iron out an agenda, so we know.
Yeah, I think, you know, from obviously they don't have any additional information from the
Right.
state, and we don't necessarily either. I do think that from a standpoint of, you know, you have the Floyd SK walkthrough tomorrow at 4. Hopefully, you know, you can attend that. You know, I think that may generate some questions, possibly some more information on that as far as timing, when they're going to send out the RFP, when they're going to get the bids, that kind of information. And then, you know, I don't know, and the reason we kept this meeting was we didn't have one, was it February? When
You kept this
kept the
meeting?
March meeting because
Yeah, we didn't have one earlier because there wasn't anything to report. And then the board, when you determined not to, or you determined to leave the equalized tax rate on real estate, you didn't have to push it out any further. So it makes sense in the schedule as it exists right now, which is the originally adopted schedule, which is basically the same schedule we work on every year.
Well,
That's why.
if you could let the superintendent know that we're gonna want to know about when they're gonna put the Votech Center out to bid, what their plans are to do with all those classes since they're emptying the building. You know, what are they gonna do for a year? I don't think you can move a garage into a regular classroom. So if they have said they're gonna empty the building, what are we gonna do with those kids and all the equipment that's in there? Is the concern. You know, or is the design and bid package ready to go out? If not, when will it be? So that we don't borrow millions of dollars and find out we should have borrowed more or we should have borrowed less. I don't want to go there Thursday and ask questions that, well, I don't know, we'll get back to you. So,
because the deadline for the bond is April 14th, 4th,
April 4th. Could I ask if, because if more than 2 of you all are going to be in attendance in that walkthrough, that I would suggest continuing this meeting until then.
Well, I'm planning on being there.
I'm planning on being there.
So are you saying that it becomes what do you mean exactly?
we just continue this meeting.
Just
We don't
continue this
adjourn it.
meeting and call it back to order. And that, in my opinion, if you're going to a function, a wedding or something, and there ends up being 3 of you, more than 2 there, as long as you're not discussing county business, it's fine, in my opinion. But if there's going to be discussion, there's going to be county business discussion at that meeting,
Or not to discuss?
at that walkthrough, I think you need to continue.
Positive note, because
That was
I
positive.
like our the 659. Yes, that's a lot of money, but we're talking about a little over 1%. And that's how much progress we have made. We being staff, finance committee, and the whole board. So when you're looking at a budget our size, We're only looking at a gap of a little over 1%. It's progress.
Is there anything else? Any other comments? Mr. Lyons?
Good.
Ms. Ayers?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Mr. Day? Mr. Lewis?
I've spoken my piece. Thank you, sir.
And, all right, so we will continue this meeting on for tomorrow. The walkthrough is at 4 o'clock. Meet at the double doors at the Floyd SK. I believe he said the information I received was that the pickup traffic should be out of there, but just,
Don't get there too early.
yeah, be aware that it's quite the activity out there around that time with people getting out of school. All right. And we will have next update next Monday at our regular board meeting.
That's another question. On your schedule, your next meeting is April 3rd, after the 23rd meeting, which is Thursday, and then your next meeting on the budget schedule is the 23rd, I mean, the April 3rd. But, you know, we can certainly, if the board would like to vote to put another meeting on the schedule, you could probably take a vote right now, a motion and a vote to add a meeting to the budget schedule for
Okay.
the 27th, 28th, 27th, next Monday. You can just put it on the work session if you want.
I mean, with the finance committee, your meeting this week, will you have an update for next Monday?
I would think we would.
Aren't allowed to discuss budget.
No, you are, and matter of fact, I don't think it
You
would
just
be.
make it an agenda item.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stay consistent. We got a budget schedule, and when we actually schedule to meet, my thought would be we go ahead and amend this and just say we're adding another meeting. We post that and just, that way it's in the budget, adopted budget schedule.
Can we have it at 5? Can we just have a budget meeting starts at 5?
I don't see no reason for a whole hour. I mean, you just gonna give us an update. And I mean, the only reason I hate to take up possibly a half hour during our meeting, not knowing if there's gonna be any, I don't know if there's gonna be any
Public hearings, there are.
Okay, so
Let's just stick with the budget schedule maybe. And if we have something momentous from finance committee next week, we could discuss that
Well, what
time, but
we could do is we could schedule it for 4:30 and then cancel it if we have nothing.
Keep in mind, here's the way it works. We post the agenda. We'll be posting the agenda at the exact time we're meeting with the school board on Thursday. So I'd need to know whether to put a budget discussion on the schedule. I mean,
I wasn't
on the
speaking of school board. We were speaking of next Monday night.
Understand, but at the very time when we're going to be meeting at 5 o'clock on this Thursday, that's when the agenda for Monday night is posted. So I got to figure out by midday Thursday if the board would like to discuss the budget again on Monday night. That makes sense.
but you're saying that requires a vote.
Just forget I said anything. Yeah, you really don't. It doesn't have to. If you want to officially update the budget schedule, the published budget schedule to talk about budget.
I think, from a board, just keeping everybody up to date. I mean, I don't see no reason to meet at 4:30, but we could do a work session at 5, get the finance committee to give us a quick update, and then we roll through our regular board meeting.
Okay, we just won't call it a budget meeting. It's just an update.
The work session that is posted on our website, correct?
Yeah, it will.
So people know.
All right, if there's nothing else,
Sorry to complicate that.
we are done.
All right.